Welcome to Conversations with Laurel, everyone. I am your host, Laurel.McChargue, and today I have a surprise because normally we would have robear Isenberg tell us one of his stories from his book, Why Men Are Suspicious of Yoga. But today we have his lovely wife, Esther, who's going to tell us her own story. And actually, Esther, welcome.
Thank you.
And you could maybe tell your part of the story of why men are suspicious of yoga, because again, that is just a
Oh,
delightful story.
that is that is word for word. I said what I said to him. When are you going to come to one of my yoga classes?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the rest
yeah,
of it, yeah, his perspective of it and the things that were said by the instructor and what he heard, were so different. It was just really, really fun. But today you have a different story to tell. What are you
I,
going to talk about
I
today?
do. I do. Well, I had the experience. I My son-in-law was here visiting, and his he has a one child who's off to Wesleyan come September, and another child who's just 13.
Okay.
And we were I asked him, had he ever seen the movie Hans Christian Andersen with Danny Kaye? And he's very musical, and he plays the guitar, and he knows all kinds of songs. He had no idea what I was talking about. And this was so much a part of my childhood that it was hard to believe that he had even
Yeah,
heard of it.
yeah, Danny Kaye. So I know this story, Hans Christian Andersen, and Danny Kaye rings a bell. But when did that movie come out? Because maybe I.
It came out in 1952 when I
Oh,
when I was about 8 years old. And
okay.
I don't remember, consciously trying to learn the lyrics, but as I watched the movie play out now, it was like I knew every single word. you know,
Wow.
and it was amazing to me. So I think we must have had a record player, and there wasn't that much TV, and we probably played it a lot. So it deeply imprinted. And
Yes,
um,
tell our listeners what a record player is. Because that movie came out
plastic
9 years before I was born. Yeah.
they have this disc. It's actually, I think it's some kind of vinyl, and it goes around and around. And as it goes around and around, you hear the music, and uh,
With a little diamond needle point,
with
right?
a little
Just
diamond needlepoint. You had to be attentive, and if you were looking for one song on the record rather than wanting to start at the beginning and go to the end, and if you knew it very well and you knew where your song would come up, you could look at the clear grooves instead of the deep. And you could find, if you knew it was the fourth song, you could count those and then come right down to
ah,
what you wanted to be. But it presented challenges. There's no question. And
yes.
Robert's much happier saying, "Alexa, play me,"
Way easier, way
and he can
easier.
get anything he wants. Or
But it
open,
doesn't have the same quality. I'm gonna guess it doesn't have the same uh, quality of sound. But
but our
yeah,
hearing isn't as good. So
true.
it all comes out the wash. I think the days of noticing the difference and being annoyed are gone. Just
I,
grateful to hear
I
it at
think,
all.
yeah, I think maybe we're meant to not see as well or hear as well as we get older, so we can handle being with the person we're married to for as long as we've been married to them. Huh? You don't see the flaws.
I don't know. It could be helpful.
So isn't it amazing your long-term memory? It
It,
just brought
they
it.
all just popped out, and they're not simple songs. They're not simple lyrics. It was not Kander and Ebb, but Kander and his other partner who wrote the. It starts with an L. They wrote the lyrics, and they're clever and they're quick, and yeah.
Are
But
you gonna
in fairness,
perform? Are you gonna perform one for us?
I would be delighted to. So the songs, many of them were based on stories that Hans Christian Andersen told. And he essentially was collecting stories. He wasn't making them up so much as having heard folk tales and putting them together in a form that they were easily shared and
Yeah.
could be, you know. So and we have a lot of that tradition in American folk tales too. They're really a collection of what was passed on orally, and then somebody was able to say, I can write this down. I know, what the essence of the story is, and I can put it down on paper. So that's kind of a magical moment when it happens in a
Oh,
cultural
yeah.
setting,
Oh,
and then we
yes.
have that story,
Yeah.
very specifically. So this is a story about an ugly duckling. And who of us haven't at one point or another been exposed to that sensation? And I think it's very empathetic and very loving. So, okay, there once was an ugly duckling with feathers all stubby and brown, and the other birds in so many words said, "Get out of town, get out, get out, get out of town." And he went with a quack and a waddle and a quack in a flurry of eider down. That poor little ugly duckling went wandering far and near, but at every place they said to his face, "Now get out of here, get out, get out, get out, get out of here." And he went with a quack and a waddle and a quack and a very unhappy tear. All through the winter time, he hid himself away, ashamed to show his face, afraid of what others might say, all through the winter in his lonely clump of wheat, till a flock of swans spied him there and very soon agreed. "You're a very fine swan, indeed." A swan? Me? A swan? Oh, go on. And they said, "Yes, you are a swan. Take a look at yourself in the lake and you'll see." And he looked and he saw and he said, "I am a swan. I'm not such an ugly duckling. No feathers all stubby and brown. For in fact, these birds in so many words said, I'm the best in town. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best in town." And he went not with a quack, not with a waddle or a quack, but a glide and a whistle and a snowy white back and a head so noble and high. Say, who's an ugly duckling? Not I.
Oh, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh. What a beautiful story.
I love it.
Thank you. I love it too. Oh my goodness. That's a story every child should hear,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, I don't know about you, but oh gosh, I felt like an ugly duckling. I had, four sisters, three older sisters who were all beautiful and had boyfriends and, were in, Marsha Jordan, modeling things and I was 4 years younger than the third.
Oh,
And then I had a baby sister, not quite 2 years younger than me, and she was blonde, long blonde hair and big blue eyes, and she was sweet. And I was this kind of freckle face, little chubby thing, and I just knew that no one would ever love me. I knew
never.
that. Never. Who would ever love? But then, of course, I shook off my brown feathers. I kept my freckles. And, and someone loved me very much.
Very much.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Life came along and with many
Yeah.
blessings. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful story. I love it. And did you say that you present these stories
Yeah.
locally?
Yeah. In the area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We
All
do.
right.
We do that. And
So how
Robert,
many more? Oh, how many more do you have?
oh, I have lots.
You have lots. Well, I will get you on then to do more stories, maybe interspersed with Robert, who maybe is resting now and might not want to come and do his short story. That's fine.
I'll check on him.
You'll check on him? All right, check on him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll hold on. I'll hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and for listeners today watching, we just heard a beautiful Hans Christian Andersen story, The Ugly Duckling, performed by Esther Isenberg, the longtime wife of Robert Isenberg, who is a stand-up comedian and who has two books. I'll have links to his books below. Wham Bam talking about life in New York City in the 60s, and his book Why Men Are Suspicious of Yoga, which is a series of short stories that are really quite amusing. So, some of the stories in that collection are not as funny, and he kind of lets you know ahead of time which stories aren't as funny because he added on to his collection a while ago. But there are some just really heartwarming and delightful stories, and last week he shared Daddy's Little Girls with us, and that was just a heartwarming story. And of course, myself being the fourth of five girls, I really related to, hey, Robert, I really related to your story, Daddy's Little Girls. Well, that was a nice surprise having Esther share that story.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And I went to my blue chair, which usually recovers me. And
Yeah,
I'm about halfway human.
you're halfway human. It's up to you if you want to share any of your
Well,
stories today.
I'll start and I'll see how I go.
Okay, sounds good.
It's
I'm still
called,
recording, so it's all about you.
oh, you are recording.
I'm recording now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's just get into
Story
it.
title. The story title is Against All Odds.
Okay.
And let's go back to when this was. Right after the war, which ended in 1945. And, baseball had suffered uh, the loss of all its players. Not
Yeah.
that they were killed, but so many of them joined. Some of them were killed. Were so many of the different armies they were in: Navy, Army, Air Force, and so baseball, you know, uh, really wasn't the baseball as before. As a matter of fact, some of at one point there was a guy playing first base with one arm.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. So baseball, had really gone through some dire years. And now it was 1945 and the war had ended. And there was a character out in St. Louis, and he was the general manager at that time of the St. Louis Cardinals. And he had quite a history. He had grown up on a farm, and he actually had a law degree. And he was a character in more than one way. He smoked cigars endlessly, and he was a very, very religious man. So religious, as much as he loved baseball, and he loved baseball more than anybody I had ever heard of, would not go to a game on Sunday.
Ah,
He was brought up as a Methodist, and it's interesting about the name Branch because evidently people who are of the Methodist faith named their children after things they saw in the forest.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they were very environment conscious, and
Kind of
sometimes,
like like Native Americans, maybe, things that they saw.
yeah. And
Yeah.
his real first name was Wesley,
Okay.
and I guess old Branch didn't think Wesley would go too well on a baseball field, so he took his middle name, which was Branch, and he became Branch Rickey forever, and that's how everybody knew him.
Okay.
Um, he was also considered probably the worst hitter and catcher that the major leagues had ever seen. But he was a very, very innovative man. He also started the farm system in baseball. The farm systems, of course, you may not know, being not a baseball fan, but the farm system was training young ball players to make the majors.
Okay.
And yeah, and it caught on, and every team started using what they called the farm system.
All right.
And in 1945, he became the manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Okay. Wow.
The then Brooklyn Dodgers, now they're the LA Dodgers. And I said he was a very religious man and he was a very dedicated man. And he had decided that he was going to bring blacks to baseball. Well, this was 1945. Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
Yeah.
Blacks to baseball? They're not intelligent enough to play the game. You don't bring blacks to baseball. Who will come to see the games? You will know white people will come to see the games. You can't put a black man on the field. Branch Rickey was dedicated. He was on a mission. He was going to bring blacks to baseball. He had his recruiters out there looking at the Negro Leagues. And finally, they reported that they saw this young man named Jackie Robinson, and they thought that he not only had the talent, the ability to be a great ball player, but he had the personality, great personality. And they were just completely impressed and inspired by this young black man. Now, Jackie was an interesting character in too many ways. He'd been in the Army. He'd actually been a first lieutenant of a Negro platoon. And Jackie was court-martialed. Why was he court-martialed? He refused to go to the back of the bus.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he was actually court-martialed. Now, there's more to
Unbelievable.
this story. There's more to this story than I've just found out an interesting fact. And that is before Branch Rickey uh, reached out to Jackie Robinson, Jackie Robinson had a tryout with, of all teams, the Boston Red Sox, owned at that time and for many years afterwards by Tom Yawkey. Well, Jackie got this tryout along with two other black athletes. Why did he get the tryout? There was a congressman in Dorchester, Mass, where I grew up, named
Dorchester. Yeah.
Isidore Muchnick. And Isidore was a liberal, I guess, ahead of his time, and he had done some studying about the Negro Leagues, and he saw these three black players that excelled. And so somehow or another, he went to the Boston Red Sox and got them to get a tryout for these three blacks. Well, they came up and they all showed how good they were. And the Boston Red Sox said, "Thank you, have a nice day, and we'll see you later." So when Jackie got the call from Branch Rickey's team, he said, "Are they kidding? They just want to waste my time. They just want to make me go through the effort of coming up to Brooklyn, and it's not going to work." And so he told his friends, and it's Jackie, you're right. Don't even think about it. And he didn't. So for 2 days, Jackie did not answer the call. Branch Rickey, being Branch Rickey, was a very powerhouse of a man, much more than he was a baseball player. And he called Jackie on the phone and he said, "Jackie, I want you up here, and I want you up here tomorrow. I'm going to send you the money to buy a ticket, and I'm going to fly you up here, and I want to talk to you tomorrow." Jackie came up, and Brent said, "I've really looked into your personality and your profile and a lot about you. And I know you were a lieutenant in the Army, and I know you were also court-martialed. And Jackie, I want to commend you for what you did, but you can't do that in baseball. You're going to be the first black to enter field. And Jackie, it ain't going to be easy. It ain't going to be easy on you. It ain't going to be easy on me. They're going to be death threats.
Yeah.
Jackie, you're going to go through hell. What do you think, Jackie? Do you think you can turn the other cheek?" Jackie said, "Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I know I'd have to do that, and I can." So he was first franchised out to the minor league team for 1 year, and he did quite well. He almost brought them a pennant. And then he came up to the Brooklyn Dodgers. And just as Branch Rickey had said and prophesied, they tried to spike him. They tried to beanball him. There were fans that were merciless, calling him names.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Jackie took it all with grace, style, and became a major factor in baseball. And soon after, Jackie made it to the majors, one or two more Negroes came up, and then 4 or 5 Negroes. And just look around today. Look at around not just baseball, but
All
look at
the sports.
basketball.
Yeah.
Look at everything golf,
Football. Yeah. Yeah.
every single sport.
Yeah.
He, these two men changed America. They did more for changing America than any president, any speaker that I can possibly think of, because it changed everything.
Yeah. Remarkable, the bravery that it took.
And this was against all odds.
Yeah.
He had Brantrick, he had no support. The other major league teams didn't want any part of it. They had
Yeah.
many reasons for not wanting any part of it. One of the major reasons was when their teams were traveling, they used to rent out their stadium to Negro leagues, and so there was a rent that they didn't want to lose. They also said, "Hey, what they'd heard before, no whites are going to come to the games." Well, look how wrong they were, and look what it did
Yeah.
for everything. It changed America, and in many ways, maybe it changed part of the world
Yeah.
by these
Yeah.
two brave men. And that's why entitled this book "Against All Odds."
It's an amazing story, right? Going from Hans Christian Andersen, talking about an individual who is put down, right? Until they discover for themselves or they attest for themselves. And yeah, rise
You know,
above,
I'll
rise above.
say two things. One, my books in so many ways make me feel like that, because I can think of all the people, who thought they were, so much smarter and so much, whatever, and how jealous they'd be, if they knew that I sold 30,000 books.
I know. And so, listeners out there today, we just heard two amazing stories from two amazing people who happen to be living together. Not
For a
not in
long time,
Sandra for a
you
long
know.
time.
And
And
the
I
other,
will.
other
Oh,
story I want to tell, it's not a story. I want to make a comment. Um, I was in the Army,
uh,
and after New Jersey, I was stationed in San Antonio at Fort Sam. And Texas was absolutely black and white. Mexicans, too, were not allowed in the same restaurants. I mean, talk about prejudice, my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
And, as sad as that was, I don't know if we had a radio or a TV, but I know almost every single day a Mexican was shot by another Mexican.
Oh, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
there was so
we've gone through some pretty horrible times, and we still are. We're still working through some things, but let's save some more stories for the next time we meet. And I will have links to both your books below. And listeners, thank you for being here, and come back to Robert's shorts next time, and you're gonna get another story. Robert, thank you, and hang on just a second, and we'll chat a bit. But listeners out there, have a wonderful week. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Esther. That was lovely.
Did you like Against All Odds?
Yes, I did. All right. We'll see you later.
That's why I'm going to tell it next week at the Bedford VA.
Okay.